Passman chapter 7 through 10 and 13, overview of the record business, section 3. Distribution methods for CDs. Wholesale distribution entities, they're the largest means of distributing records. They buy from record companies and sell to retail stores. One-stops, they buy from the major distributors and then sell to mom and pop record stores. Rack jobbers, they lease floor space from department and mass market stores, and they pay rent to the store and keep the profit of the record sales. A licensee, they sign an agreement with record companies to manufacture and distribute the records, also foreign. Royalties for USA sales apply to CD or digital downloads that are sold in the USA, and they sell at the full price, the PPD, 9 to 10% for physical, $9 to $10 for physical, and $7 to $8.30 for digital, through normal retail channels, by the company's normal distribution channels, such as wholesale distributors. Royalties for foreign sales. There's a normal royalty reduction for sales outside the US, and it varies from company to company and artist to artist. A higher royalty is paid for sales in territories where the company have an ownership interest in the foreign distributor. A higher rate is paid for sales in major territories. Canada pays 85% of the USA rate, so a 10% USA rate would mean 8.5% for Canada. Royalties for foreign sales. Major territories are considered United Kingdom, Australia, Italy, Japan, Holland, Germany, and France. The remaining European Union countries, Western Europe, and Scandinavia can be treated as majors. The major royalty rate is normally 70 to 75% of the USA rate, so a 10% USA rate would mean 7% to 7.5% of PPD. And ROW stands for rest of the world. Any other country not included in the above, and the royalty rate is normally 50 to 66.66% of the USA rate. So a 10% USA rate equals 5% to 6.66% of USA. Reserves and limitations. Setting a limit on the number of reserves a record company can hold. Mid-level artists are going to want 35 to 50% of the records shipped. No reserves on digital sales. Reserves need to be liquidated over a set period of time, and sometimes it is stipulated that they are rateable, meaning the liquidation payments must be in equal amounts during the liquidation period. Nielsen Music Connect, it measures records, both physical and digital, sold at retail. It's used for Billboard charts. It's sold to record companies and other potential users for millions of dollars in some cases. Not 100% accurate, especially since niche records at independent stores are not calculated in there. Reserves not to exceed shipments less the SoundScan numbers plus a 10% cushion. 100% accurate for digital sales though. Master licenses royalties. Artists get 50% of any license used for motion pictures, TV, and commercials. Now with special markets or catalog divisions of record companies, 15 to 25% is taken off the top before distribution to the artist. This can be negotiated. Electronic transmission types. You have digital downloads, also known as digital phonorecord delivery, DPD. Tethered downloads, buyers do not have complete control of the download. Permanent download, you get to keep the file on your device. Non-interactive webcasting, the user does not have control over what they hear. Some examples of these, well, Pandora or iTunes Radio are these. Streaming on demand, you can listen to any song in the service database at any time, but you cannot copy it. Electronic transmission types, examples of streaming on demand. Spotify, Napster, radio. Think of these as virtual jukeboxes or cloud server services. Streams are free with advertising or subscription based on certain services such as Spotify and Pandora. Video streaming on demand, YouTube, Vivo, and MSN. Electronic transmission types, ringtones and ringbacks. Artists only get paid on master tones because they're part of the master recording. Digital lockers are a place where you store your music on someone else's server. Purchase content lockers, upload music, and then access from anywhere, Amazon, Google, Dropbox. Full lockers don't require uploading music and allow users to stream their copies whenever they want. Electronic transmission types. You have bundled services. That's a combination of products that you get bundled together. For example, Cricket's Move Music. Satellite radio. Sirius XM is the largest, and users pay a monthly or annual fee. It's non-interactive, although you could pick many different channels: 70s, 60s, 80s, 90s, top hits, hip hop. Apps, programs on the phone, with the major music apps being Shazam and SoundHound. Podcasting, a program you download with dialogue and music. Digital service providers, permanent downloads. DSP keeps 70% and record companies get the remaining 70. I'm sorry, DSPs keep 30% and record companies get the remaining 70%. Artist royalties are based on 70%. So 10% of 0.7 is 7 cents. Some artists are suing, trying to retain their, trying to claim they deserve 50% of this revenue because they claim these are licenses of which they get 50% and not sales. That's been a big battle. Why are record companies making the same money on digital? They still have digitization costs, paying unions, mechanical costs to add metadata, storing files. There's still tremendous costs in there. Digital service providers, ringtones. Record companies get 50% of the retail price for master tones. Interactive audio streaming, 60% of ad revenue and or subscription fee prorated for each master is paid to the record company. The digital service providers also pay the songwriters. There's also a per subscriber minimum that is paid, such as $6. Non-interactive webcasting and satellite radio. Money is collected by sound exchange because it's a performance, it's non-interactive. Then record companies and artists are paid from sound exchange money. Digital service providers, purchase content lockers, nothing paid to record companies, as they argue that this is like the user making a copy for their home computer and no one else can access the file. True in the US, but not in other countries without the personal copy exemption. Full lockers, you have to pay all the rights holders in order to get the right to make copies. 58% to the record company. Songwriters get the greater of 12% of revenue, or 20.65% of the amount charged by record companies. Digital service providers, bundled service, the rate varies to the label. Video streaming, 70% for both the record and the songwriters, and apps, app and others usually keep 30%. Podcasts are small amounts. Other royalty issues, coupling and compilations. Artists are putting their recordings on records with other artists, i.e. best of the 70s. Royalties are prorated share of the total with MFN, or most favored nations clause. Joint recordings, more than one artist, royalty artist gets together on the same song, such as a duet, Ebony Ivory with Paul McCartney and Stevie Wonder, and royalties is split among the artists. A group counts as one artist. Artist price is a percentage of the royalty if they are the star, sometimes done as a trade out. Other royalty issues, greatest hits, pro rata royalties. It's tricky if different royalty rates and escalation clauses. And for multiple albums, royalty is reduced by the ratio reduction in the selling price. Box set are usually negotiated royalties, and TV advertising reduce artist royalties, but for a set period only. And DVDs and other home video devices is prorated audio and video royalties. Other royalty issues, manufactured units by record company, 10 to 20% of the published price per dealer. License sales, 50% of net receipts after distribution fee, distribution expense, and third-party payments. All-in video royalties. The artist is responsible for the producer and mixer royalties from their shares we discussed earlier. Mid-price records, PPD of 65 to 80% of top-line price. Royalty is 66.66% to 75% of the USA base price. And budget records, PPD of less than 65%. Royalty is 50% of the top-line rate. Record clubs, I don't know, do they still have those? Royalties, I used to belong to some. Royalties, 50% of top line. Cutouts or deletes, no royalties. Premiums sold with other products, 50% of top line royalty. And video games, master license on a flat fee basis. We talked about before DART, digital audio recording technology. Labels and artists pay directly from the sale of digital audio tape players and digital audio blank tapes, excluded from deficit recoupment. And foreign public performance. Outside the US, record companies paid when a recording is on the radio, as opposed to when it is played on the radio in the US. Record companies and artists do not get that on the radio in the US, but they do outside the US. Accounting, royalties paid twice per year, 60 to 90 days after close of a period, and 1 to 2 years after a statement is sent to object to it. And you have the ability to audit rights, which can be expensive if you want to do that. And that's the end of Passman 7 through 10 in chapter 13, section 3.